for what?
Just strategies that you implement within your classroom.
Oh, that I am, well, I just showed you one strategy, the flipping the classroom. That's a strategy. How many do you want me to name?
As many.
Okay. Oh, the strategies. When you talk, so define for me strategies when you mean strategies, because there's techniques, there's strategies, and there's other things. So what do you mean by strategy?
What about strategies for assessment, strategies that you use for kids to collaborate with?
Like think, pair, shares kind of strategies.
Oh, okay. Well, we do think pair share all the time.
Right.
Now, when I was teaching at the university or when I taught in the classroom?
In the classroom.
In the classroom. Well, always you got the popsicle stick.
Mm-hmm.
And we always had the think, pair, share. One strategy that I used to transition, which was I found a very nice transition strategy, was to always make sure that all my students had a bag full of books.
Mm-hmm.
Now, they reading A to Z, I don't know. But in math, you teach reading.
Right.
And I always had, in reading A to Z, you can get math books that are reading books. So they always had their own paper copy. And so when they transitioned, they always could take their book, go sit down with friends, and read while everybody was getting ready.
Mm-hmm.
And they always got a new book every week, so they had something to share. So that was a transition strategy, is to give them a 5-minute warning. But they already knew they could go grab their books, and that was their social time, so
Right.
beat the clock. Another strategy is I never use desks.
Never used this.
No.
Really?
Why is that?
Where do you like to study?
In my bed.
Ah, there you go. Where do you think children like to study?
On the floor.
There you
And
go.
when did you find out this? Did you like start out with using desk and then
I-
take them away, or did you always never? Just,
Well, I had started teaching in preschool and then I moved up, but
Mhm.
I always found that tables were much more, but that got in the way too.
Mhm.
So if you give them a clipboard and you let them take off their shoes, then they're happy little campers. They're
Right.
they're not sitting at the desk, they're under the desk.
Mhm.
Well, when you played house, where did you like to go?
Under
Underneath
things.
Ah, there you go. So the strategy was find yourself a comfortable place and get the work done.
That's awesome.
So, but think about it. If you gotta really think hard, where do you go?
Mhm.
If you really have to, where do you go when you study?
Probably the couch.
Okay.
Mhm.
Where do you go when you really have to concentrate on getting things done?
The library, but I sit like in those comfy chairs.
Have to be
Okay,
comfortable.
there you go. So they have to be comfortable. I had lots of pillows until we had lice, and then we didn't. Seriously,
Yeah.
got rid of that. So, but they always find a place, a nice, comfy place, and that is actually teaching strategy. So
Right.
let me think about something else here. Clipboards instead of desks. Choice. Students always had a choice of what they wanted to do first, second, or third. If I was doing many lessons, the only thing is you taught a lesson for 10 minutes or less. And then the rest of the time they would work in groups
Mhm.
to find their answers. And there's always, what, in math, how many ways to get to an answer?
Right.
Oh, yeah.
A million.
Okay, strategy was explain your answer. How did you get it? Didn't matter. As long as you got it and you could explain how you got it. Then explain it to your neighbor.
Right.
And if they could explain it back to you, then it made sense.
Right.
So they were always not just think, pair, share, but actually sharing how they got it, showing how they got it, and then transferring back and teaching each other.
Yeah.
So I'd show them one way, and they'd come up with 5 different ways.
Mhm.
The one thing that I loved when I was teaching is that everybody had a job every day.
You assigned those job at the beginning of the. How did they know their jobs?
Okay, at the beginning, what I did, and I have an article on it, for math, it's great. For any job, for any classroom, if you want complete attendance every day, and you want students to be totally engaged, who's the better teacher, you or the peer?
The pair.
So you decide not to clean the table, not to pick up the papers. Boring, right? Not the checking the homework. How boring is that? But if you said, okay, here you have 25 students, you find 25 ways that they're going to teach
Right.
within that time period. Now, if you're in middle school, you may not be able to do all 25, but in elementary school, you had the weather specialist, you had the calendar specialist, you had the, and the weather specialist should be on the internet. So, I mean, we got into the technology. You had the number specialist, which meant there's a problem. You had a word problem specialist because you just didn't do numbers. You had an estimator. You had a law of probability. Law of probability is probably their most favorite. Because what they would do is they'd be able to put it in a bag. They decide, they'd ask and it's all language based. So they'd say, Bobby, what colors and how many do I put in the bag? And Bobby would say 5. Then say, Zach, how many do you want? And he would say 10 blue. And then you'd have the 5 different colors. And so you've now involved 5 different people. But who's doing the teaching?
Right.
Students.
The students. Then they mark up, okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, and then they'd have to predict what color comes out of the bag first. Why?
Yeah.
So they did what color, and then they have to explain why. So now you have the 5 that actually got to pick the colors. They can't pick it. So by the time you finish, you had 15 students involved in the game.
Yeah.
Did you teach probability?
Right now.
Yeah, they got probability. They knew why they picked it, and then they would all get all the answers correct or not. But why do you think the yellow came out? Because there's more. There were 12 yellow and only 3 blue, so definitely the yellow's going to come out of the bag. Why? And then they explain why. The law of probability. There are more, so therefore they got more. So the long and story short of it is they had a job. It switched every day. So as you went into the jobs, they were all posted here. They knew exactly when they would be part of the positions. They had a poet. We had a poet. We had just one was the speller, and one was just what. So they had all of these jobs, and I could go through the list. It switched every day. So the person that was going to have the job the next day, what do you think they were doing?
Preparing.
Preparing by watching the person ahead, right?
Right.
You change the poem all the time. You change the problem all the time. You change the math all the time. You changed everything all the time, but they're watching because they were going to be teaching it next.
Right.
Wouldn't you want to come to school to be the teacher?
Keeps them engaged.
Yeah.
Totally engaged. The next day we switch it again.
Awesome.
Did I have to worry about attendance? Never. Perfect attendance all the time. So that's one way. It's the planning. It's not really the strategy. It's the planning.
Okay.
Does that make?
Yes, ma'am.
So what do you think I'm saying?
That you have to take the time to like plan it all out and
How you're going to
yeah.
schedule it around everything that you're already trying to teach.
But are you direct instruction?
No.
No.
Students.
That's the key, is to get it out from you. That's a good teacher, is you get it away from you and you get it back to them. Just think about it. How can you get it out of you and back to them?
Right.
That's think about it. Did any teacher do that for you?
Not that I know of.
Well, how would you? You had a couple?
And those are the people that make me why I want to become a teacher, you know?
Okay, how about you? Do they turn it over to you and
yeah, I
say
probably had one in high school algebra. Yeah.
1 out of 12
Yeah.
years? So which one made you want to learn more?
My algebra teacher.
There you go.
Yeah.
It's not the tricks of the trade. It's learning how to know what you want. And so how can I get there where I'm not the director?
Right.
That's hard.
Where it's student-centered.
Exactly. And no answer is wrong.
Right.
Okay.
Mhm,
How about that one?
Wow.
Think about that. It can't be wrong if that's what they think,
Right.
can it?
No, because isn't that like your opinion? And your opinion can't be wrong.
In math, can it be wrong if that's what they think?
No.
It's not really wrong. You might have to do what?
Kind of
Direct
mold
them.
it.
Dig a little, yeah, dig a little
Right,
deeper.
dig a little deeper and around and get it done and you still. But assessment is that. That's just seeing where they are, making those adjustments, and then turning it back over to them to learn. Okay?
Yes, ma'am.
That makes sense.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Any other questions? Now that I've just talked to you.
Actually, that question was actually perfect.
Yeah.
I think that answers a lot of our other questions also.
Oh, what are the other
'Cause-
questions?
Well, okay, because I'll tell you
Okay.
our documentary is, the name of it is Do Teachers Practice What They Preach?
Mm.
And so we're kind of basing it on what they learned when they were in college and how they're implementing it in their classrooms now.
Okay, I didn't learn that in college.
Okay.
Okay, I'm going to tell you that right now. I learned it through just wanting to play,
An experiment.
an experiment, and that's the way I've always been. So when I look at children, I go, okay, I want to play.
Mhm.
My shoes go off as soon as I get in the door. I want to play. So what's the best way is to think, if I want to play, what about they want to play? And since my background is language based, so you have to get children talking and stuff. So you have to figure out ways to get them to talk.
Right.
And I did have some mentors when I was in college that would just let me develop my own way. And that was probably the best support. I had one. She said, just do what you have to do. And then I had a mentor when I was doing my student teaching that just said, you know, just take over. And he let me play, and the children love to play. So think play, and how can you have them play and you be a part of it and not direct instruction?
Right.
And that's how I got it. Those were how I started the strategies with the jobs, and the jobs were games. And games, do you like playing games?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Okay, well then, why not use games to play? And all the games were all the jobs were all in games, like probability. We've done that probability game so many times that they go, oh yeah, we know how to do it. And then you're building language, you're building rapport, you have the social skills, you have the probability, you have inquiry based, you have all the learning right there.
Does it help the students that are like that are really shy and don't like to talk at all? Because I mean, we have students that we teach and they will not talk.
Right. Oh, do you have a second? Because I do have my videos of these kids.
Yeah.
And they don't talk because some are deaf.
Oh wow.
You want to hold on to that just a
Yeah.
minute? Let me see if Dr.